That rule will work on my property.
At 6 o'clock, we will call the Wednesday, May 2009 Rockville City Council meeting to order. Those of you who entered in earlier may have seen that we were in a gathering. That was a recess. We had a workshop before, and we're done with that workshop, and so we're going to reconvene. So we have called to order. That was the start of it. But at this stage of the game, we're going to go forward, and there is a Pledge of Allegiance. So if we can care to rise and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, just to make it perfectly clear again, the previous workshop that we had was properly noted and no action was taken. If there are any actions, they were going to be in here. And so at this point, we would have roll call. All members are present except member Tipple, and he has called in and he has a sickness or a health issue. So we wish him well. Silence our electronic devices, please. We'll take care of number 4, additions, approval of the agenda. And one thing that we have and on the agenda, items 15 through 17. So 15, 16, and 17, that did not culminate into any council action that's needed. So we'll be removing that from the agenda. Any other additions, corrections, modifications to the agenda? If not, a motion will be in order.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please
Do
proceed.
you want to add this Lions Park thing onto the agenda?
Would you want to add that to the Lions Park?
I would like to.
Okay.
I'm going to do something with that.
Okay, the Lions Park storage shed, which we discussed at the workshop with no action taken. And Brian would like to have that added. Where would we like that? Under
11D as in David?
11D as in David. Got it. Mr. Bodie, you have that on there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, remind us when we get to that point. Thank you. Any other comment, additions? If not, motion would be in order.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Bill. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded by Don. With those 2 slight modifications. Any discussion? Seeing none or hearing none, all those in favor identify by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, any abstentions? Seeing none, passed unanimous. Okay. Public comment, 3 minutes maximum, no sharing, allotting of minutes, statements only, not dialogue. Hopefully we'll keep it with the agenda. And when we get into the public hearing for the city ordinance amendment, obviously that's entirely different. So if you have public hearing information as it relates to the ordinance, we'll defer it until that point, unless you feel compelled that you want to do it now and later. So anyways, anyone that wants to speak to the council at this point, please advance to the lectern. And a second call, anyone that would care to address the council as it relates to the governance of the city of Rockville. And the third item, and I see no one breaking fast pace. Okay, we will continue for item number 7, resolutions 2019-16, acceptance of the April donations. And it's always great to be able to share, bypassing the whereases. Now therefore, the city of Rockville formally accepts the following donations, contributions given to the city during the month of April 2019 and agree to their associated stipulations. And it's from the Great Rockville Lions Club for $2,250 for Rockville Fire Department, and I believe they specified for possible for a drone. Is that, Mr. Bodie, is that the correct drone?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the wish of the council?
I have a question. Does that money specifically have to be used for a drone?
Yes.
A motion would be in order.
So moved.
Motion by Bill, seconded by Don, to accept the donation Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Aye. Contrary, same sign. Nays. Any abstentions? None. Passed unanimous. Okay, consent agenda. I believe we have nothing that's added to it. The consent agenda acknowledges receipt of the bills paid, approval of the Rockville City Council minutes of April 10th, acknowledging the sheriff's report for the month of April, acknowledging the March and April building permits, the resolution 2019-17, which is the liquor license renewals, and then the 2019-18 approval of the one probationary firefighter, which went through the process. And when we get to that point, I'm hoping that somebody can bring the name up and recognize that. It's in our council packet. Mr. Gordon,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
okay. Motion's been made by Bill to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Bill, seconded by Brian to accept the consent agenda in mass. If there is a conflict of interest, share with us when you are making that vote. So I shall call the question. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the others that have a conflict, if you could share with us. But all the rest of it, you're going to be voting for and abstaining on that. Okay, and that's because Donnie got a check. Oh, very good.
And I would like to abstain from check numbers 19011 and 19057.
And that was a check that was cut to you for your services. And the balance will be voting
For, yes.
The chair ruled that we have a unanimous decision. All acknowledged the consent agenda as presented in mass, other than the 2 abstentions. Okay, that's smooth. Number 9, and this is always something that we learned. I'm just going to take a fleeting moment, and later on I'll discuss it a little bit more into ours, but that's the process that we need to go through. So as a conflict of interest was part of the learning curve that we had. Okay, item number 9, public hearing. We will now go and recess the regular meeting and go into the public hearing for public input for the proposed City of Rockville ordinance amendments. And the process that we're asking, anyone that would care to share, again, we'll impose that 3-minute rule. Please advance to the lectern, share your comments, and at that point, to expedite it, if there's a multitude of them, don't lollygag, just one after another. So hopefully we can get this streamlined, and we'll go from there. So here's our chance. This is huge. The last time this has been changed was in 2003 originally when it proposed. Each and every year there's some incidental changes that come along, but this is the first major rewrite of the ordinance amendment.
In our workshop today, just so the public knows that we are not going to approve any ordinance changes tonight. We're going to take your input. This goes back to the city and then for a final approval down the road. Just so you know that there's going to be no stamp of approval from the city council tonight.
And Bill, if you don't mind, just a recent event that we need to have, and that's the DNR has a 30-day review process window for them to acknowledge, and that just got back to us about 2 days ago, so none of us had the ample time to really review the DNR public input of basically the sections that they were, is 32 and 34. One of them is the ordinance for shoreline ordinance, and the other one is short-term rental. Okay? Great one. Okay, please don't be bashful. This is monumental. If somebody feels that they need to address it, otherwise we'll just move on to the next item or something like that. The council, as Bill stated, we will not be making a specific decision. We want to make sure we have public input. And once and for all this hard work we've done for millions of people for many, many months, we're dangerously close to having it. Please proceed, ma'am. Name, address, for the record.
It has been many months. My name is Lori Flexen-Johnson. I live in St. Cloud, and my brother is here in Rockville, and my mother also. I I grew up on Grand Lake and have been renting a home there for the past 10 years, various homes. And I'm here to give just a couple of points. I reviewed the ordinance, and I've been kind of following this since last summer. And if you could follow along, first of all, I do commend you on your hard work. It's obviously just a couple of quick things, because I know I have to keep it to 3 minutes. If you look at number 12, it says the occupancy will be limited to no more than 2 people per bedroom.
What section are you on?
That's in the 34, I'm assuming.
Are you in the short-term rental?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we need to know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
And that's in
This thing is 500 pages long.
Yeah, it's ordinance.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just the short-term rental new thing. It states that no more than 2 people per bedroom will be there, plus 2 persons for each additional outdoor building. You might want to specify that, because on one of the places I rented, there were 3 additional buildings outside. But now I could read this to me and I could have 6 more people. And another place I rented, there were 2 additional buildings outside. And I could read this to me and I could have 2 more people other than the bedrooms. So you might want to look at defining other buildings. Because technically, I could put 2 people in the shed or the garage if I wanted to.
That's correct.
But I'm here to talk mostly about number 18 and number 30, and I'll review them quickly. I have been a renter, I have been a landlord, I still am. I can fully understand the need to really try to control and to limit and to protect the people who live there, protect the renters, property owners, everyone, and try to bring to a minimum the potential for any disturbances. However, if you look at number 18, that's a little tough. I would like to ask that you consider 5 possible ways you can lighten that up just a little bit. For example, when you look at the number of bedrooms plus 5 and not having any events, I'm in one of these rental homes. My cousin walks by with her 2 children and her 2 kids in their strollers. And now for our 45-minute visit, we have 4 extra people on our property for that period of time. And I can't imagine that that's what you're after, that kind of a thing. But maybe you want to include that, somehow by adding a sentence. So I'd like to ask you to take a look at possibly option 1. Maybe you look at the extra people amount with the amount of lake footage that they have. Someone with 300 feet of lake frontage can accommodate more people than 50 feet of lake frontage. Could you add a sentence that would tie that added 5 people to the amount of lake frontage that they have? Could you look at a sentence that says, this, number 18, excludes short-term visits that temporarily may exceed the limit, that you're thinking of. Number 3, could you put an age thing on it? Could you say, I think we all know that junior high, high school kids, young people, young adults cause potentially the most problems. Could you say this number excludes children, persons 4 and under or 65 and older? Because your trouble isn't going to come from them. And it's hard to tell Grandma and Grandpa they can't come to the 4th of July because that brings it 2 people over. Could you possibly delete everything after the word premises in number 18? And could you say something like, transient guests will at all times be governed by and protected by the same noise ordinance that protects all Rockville City residents. All transient guests must receive a copy of the Rockville Noise Ordinance and must attest in writing that they have received and will abide by.
Fine, Mr. Mayor.
This will cover everything.
Is that document that you have something that you could forward to Mr. Bodie or
Sure.
and if it's not today, or bring it in tomorrow? Is that something that we as a council probably want?
Sure. May I request another 30 seconds?
And make it quick, and if it's relevant to this.
Great. It's about the final point. Anyone can make a phone call to police and say there's problems. I want you to consider adding a word. Excessive credible service calls shall be defined as blah, blah, blah. Or, option 2, service calls that result in observation or discovery of noise or ordinance violations will go against the property owner. That protects the owners and the renters from calls made simply by people who want to put somebody out of business. Thank you. And I learned that as a property owner and landlord. Thank you.
Thank you. Continue the process from the public. Any input as it relates to the ordinance review? Now is your golden opportunity.
Hi, my name is Coraline Oliver. We own property at 10919 Mitchell Lane. And I'm going to speak to the draft of the Rockville short-term rental ordinance. I also made copies of it with that.
Or if you would be so kind as to give that to Mr. Bodie when you're speaking with that.
Okay.
Before you leave me.
So overall, I think it's great that there's going to be rules and regulations in place to protect the community and the renters and the owners. There's a few things we would like to see change. Number 3, from the rental ordinance, we support removing the term LLC because this prevents people from being able to protect.
I'm sorry, please speak up a little louder.
Oh, sorry about that. We support removing the term LLC from number 3, so that
Limited liability corporation.
right. I think number 4 covers the idea that only one per property owner, only one rental. So we feel like being able to have an LLC can protect people's first properties from their second property. Number 18, again, to speak on what Lori was talking about, we oppose limiting the number of additional guests during the daytime hours to 5 additional guests just because of the nature of some people's properties. If they only have 1 bedroom, 2 guests, and 5 extra people come, or even only a handful of days a year have we had people above that. But if people are coming through, neighbors stopping by, families stopping by, we hate to get shut down just because of rare instances where people aren't even creating a nuisance. So I think that it would be better suited to have the noise ordinance govern over that instead of limiting the amount. Number 24, we think that the short-term rental should have the same inspection requirements as regular rentals. So regular rentals are inspected right now once every 5 years, and this is stating that they should be inspected annually by the rental inspector and the fire marshal, which seems kind of excessive if it's much more than a regular rental. So I would just like to see consistency throughout. We also oppose adding a hotel motel use tax, since we already pay sales tax, we already pay income tax, property tax. We also pay an additional tax because it's only used seasonally, and it's not used
Time, Mr. Mayor.
100%. So.
Okay, as many of those comments, please advance, and then we would take in mass the body and we look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Others that would care to address the council as it relates to the ordinance review amendments?
Good evening. I'm Vicki Rosiski. I live at 25699 Lake Road, St. Cloud, Minnesota. I just want to address one thing of the short-term rental, and that's number 17, additional occupancy by use of recreational vehicles, tents, and accessory structures, or fish houses is not permitted. Right now, the guidelines, as far as a tent, as far as if a family does have grandkids or something that they want to put a tent up on one side of a lot that is adequate, that does not encroach on any of the neighbors or anything else, it seems think that they would be able to at least put up that type of that type of a thing, the structure, just to be able to have their kids be exposed to getting camping on a lake, especially if it's not, if it stays with the guidelines of the noise ordinances and also the guidelines of the neighbors and not encroachment and everything else, and they have to follow the whole rules and everything else that has to do with the short-term rental. And then also another good thing would be is that as far as a camper, and sometimes people are coming through town and they have a camper that they're using for a form of transportation, and if the camper is there, even though they may be renting a cabin, it's not saying that, you know, that they can't keep their camper there because they're staying there in the cabin, or somebody, you know, part of their family comes from different areas and stuff. It's kind of a heavy-duty guidelines that, especially if there's parking space available and it's not like it's a, you know, turning into a campground or something like that type of thing. The other one would be is, I guess sometimes it's hard to make the rules and regulations so strict that they cannot be enforced. Another one would be for the number 27, which I think Corliss just talked about, and that is for the hotel and motel use taxes, that property. That would put it into the category that they would be probably paying as much taxes as Eddie's on Grand Lake. And right now they could not be able to afford it, and it's like they are just making it, right now a lot of places are just making it seem the way it is. And it's this, some of the places right now, one that was in particular right now as far as the nightly stay is so minimal that it's not like a place that has 5 bathrooms or so many bedrooms that it's in the living spaces does not warrant having a big 12 people in the house or something like that. So as far as putting that tax on it would be a great burden that they could not make it. We also do already pay sales tax, income taxes, and real estate taxes. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Okay, thanks for those comments, Vicki. Okay, was there something there that you wanted to leave with Mr. Bodie so that we can, it's sometimes hard for us to hear the audio, so if we have a visual or a written document.
I can do that.
Appreciate it, thank you very much. Others that may want to chat with council or address the council, not chat, it's one way.
My name is Richard Lecker. I live at 8282 County Road 6. And in regards to the short-term rentals, I don't have these all numbers, but you guys talked about the hotel tax, and I just think that's based on the amount of taxes that they're paying already before they have a property. And also the size or the number of people that you're allowing to have there, I think we limit on this property, is limited to 11. And it is a large piece of property, and it could handle many more than that. It's just that I think that it should be more, the amount of people should be more equated to the noise ordinance. If there's a problem with the noise ordinance, because it's such a big party, then you can, you know, call the police and whatever. But and then once again, that the calls need to be legitimate that are called into the police. And then also about the inspections, it seems like it is an overkill to have to inspect it once a year when other rental units really are only inspected every 5 years. And as far as 1 year on a short-term rental, Coral and Alex are in there, you know, 20, 30 times a year, looking things over and checking for the safety issues and that sort of stuff. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And just to make a quick comment, the ordinance is not specifically for just, it's citywide. It's citywide. So every square inch of the city is where this ordinance would be enforced. And so, you know, right now the subject matter seems to be because of one entity or something like that, but it's universal throughout. So, anyways, other comments?
And maybe we could talk about things that haven't been said yet.
Yeah.
We shorten this up.
Yeah. Good, and Bill brings up a good point.
My name is John Rosinski. I'm from 2552 Lake Road, and I haven't said anything yet. But I come from a family of 6 people. If we're standing in one place in Rockville, I don't feel that we're a nuisance. And I think that telephone calls are not nuisances, but I believe that there are nuisances, and if there's a nuisance, that's what we should count, rather than the number of the people or, what they're doing. If it's a valid nuisance, I believe that there should be a limit of how many you can have that, and then a way to resolve that, rather than make up other rules that aren't really specific enough to be able to enforce or do anything about it. And I believe if we do make a rule, we should enforce it equally across the board to all people, and that gives us a protection, because there's several rentals, and if everybody that has a rental has to sign up on a piece of paper, you'd be ashamed at how many people aren't following the rules. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Okay. Any other comments as it alludes to, and as was stated, some of these are repetitious, and so if there's new information, that would be great, but rather than to continue, and I think we hear you loud and clear on several of those issues that seem to have a common theme.
Alex Mulder, 10909 Mitchell Lane. Just want to make a quick point about the hotel tax. Just want to point out that in the state of Minnesota, it's a very small amount of towns that actually employ a hotel tax on short-term rentals. And it's only because there's other industry in that town and they're lobbying to have those taxes in place. So that's the reason that you see that in places. Well, you can see here in this town, we don't have that. And quite honestly, we're not making a profit with what we're doing, and every situation in town could come up where people could turn a profit, but that's the way it is for us. We're just trying to make ends meet, so.
Yeah. Thanks for the comment, Any other comments as it relates to ordinance amendments? And a second chance? I don't see anyone making the movement, so third chance. Motion would be in order to close the public. Second. Motions by Brian, seconded by Bill to close the public input portion of the ordinance amendment. Okay, to that point, I'm sorry, yes. Yes, good point. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those abstaining, those opposed, same sign. And the abstention, seeing none, passed unanimous. As was alluded to earlier, what the wishes of the council was alluded earlier that we should continue to do the dialogue and not have any council action on this item at this point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, okay.
I haven't had a chance to read all of the.
I'd like to have to hear comments from you guys, like the random notice, and feel that, and the DNR thing, I'd like to go into depth on a lot of things that can be read, but in depth a little further, I think can be modified and make it a little better and simpler for everybody.
Okay. And so for us, we will take no action on item number 9 this evening. We will more than likely have a ordinance amendment task force of us getting together where we properly note it, and rather than to use it up in a regular city council meeting, when it's foreseeable for 2 of ours are still gainfully employed, all of us are gainfully employed, but not to the degree of some. So in those 2, and in the foreseeable future, we will probably be calling a special meeting during the course of the day to highlight those comments that were brought in today publicly, and then also certainly the DNR portion of it so that we make it complete. And then if that is then either accomplished at that point or a resolution is drafted, and then it would be either at that particular date or more likely that would be our standard council meeting that we would then have that council action when Mr. Boyd gets a chance to draft that resolution. So is that the marching orders that we give to Mr. Boyd? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Moving along, thank you, public, for the input. Appreciate it. John McGray.
Mr. Mayor, I got
Yes,
one
please.
comment.
Yeah.
When you approved the consent agenda, you had a question about probationary firefighter, it's Jeffrey Patton.
Oh, Jeffrey Patton, yes. Oh, the local gentleman, yes. Great.
Person, okay?
Thanks, Don. Yeah, he goes through his 1-year probation, and it's an individual who is probably one right in there. Thank you very much. Item number 10, Department Reports, Planning Commission. Bill.
Okay, Council, General Public, we have 2 items on our agenda tonight. The first item is from John and Lisa Lutkin, and they want to change the zoning from Ag 40 to a rural residential PUD, planned unit development. Property is currently zoned Ag 40, lot size is approximately 30 acres. We did have a public hearing last night. A number of people came and approached the podium with concerns. Some people are concerned about their taxes. I have no idea what that would do to them if this was approved, so we said that. A couple other people had no problem at all with this change. So we did have a public hearing. The commission is recommending approval to change from Ag 40 to rural residential.
And that was with those conditions, Bill, that were established?
No, that wasn't, that was the other one.
Oh, that was the other one. So this one here would be to change.
And this is just the change from rural residential to
Yeah.
or Ag 40 to rural residential.
Okay, and you've heard the recommendation of the chair of the planning and zoning to, planning and zoning has agreed that it would be appropriate to advance to council, they move into advance on that motion to change the law, change the zoning.
I'll make a motion to approve this resolution number 2019-19, approving a rezoning from A40 to RR with PUD overlay.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by John, seconded by Brian to 2019-19 rezone the John and Lisa Lipkin, Ag 40 to RR with PUD overlay. All those in favor, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those contrary, nays. Any abstentions, seeing none, passed unanimous.
The second on our agenda, and I'm trying to find it on my iPad because we have so much on it. Give me just 30 seconds. Is to Edward J. Zapp Living Trust and Verizon Wireless to request the construction of an approximately 200-foot tower on Mr. Zapp's property, which is 22807 Roush Lake Road. Parcel number, wow, I'm not going to read all that. We had a public hearing last night, and the comments that were made were positive in that right now there is very little, I don't want to say, communication possibilities in that area because of the design of the terrain. So this would improve that tremendously, and Eddie Zapp brought up the conditions of if they did have an emergency on the lake or whatever, that they want this, so it was very positive. There are 3 conditions upon approval. All conditions of the city zoning code, subdivision code, and other ordinances are met. That the proposed driveway be surfaced with Class 2 crushed granite or similar material, and that the operation of said tower does not interfere with any emergency communication of the city or nearby rescue or public. So the zoning commission is advising approval on this.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations of the chair of planning and zoning. What's the wishes of the council? Motion would be in order.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2019-20.
I will second that motion.
A motion by Brian, seconded by Don, to resolution 2019-20, additional use permit for the Eddie Zapp Junior Trust and Verizon Wireless with the conditions that were shared. Any other discussion? Not all. Opposed? Nays? Any abstentions? Seeing none, passed unanimous. Okay, thank you, Bill. Mr. Engineer, Justin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Two things on the agenda there. I don't have a whole lot on the first item. Stickney Dairy update. Not received any formal submittals or anything like that from Stickney. They are not here this evening, so I guess things are just progressing as was reported last month, where they are currently discharging their waste. Or they are not discharging their waste, they're hauling it off. So, other than that, I have no news at this time.
Okay, no council action needed on that?
No. And then next item, 2019 street project. So update on that. We are in the process of just, plans and specifications are essentially finalized on that. We've set a bidding date of May 20th. Broad Intertech has been out to do a few cores out of the roadway on the additional roadways that we added to the project after the last workshop session, which was Hollis Road, 88th, and Rush Lake? Yeah, Rush Lake. So anyway, they're finishing that up on Friday. Based on preliminary results, some of the Hollis Road did have very minimal aggregate base underneath, so there might be some areas where we add some aggregate base on top in the reclamation process, similar to what we did in the roadways before. If there's no ag base underneath, we do need some ag base to mix in with the tools there. So we're continuing forward with that, and like I said, the bid date is set for May 20th, where we receive bids, and then we'd probably be looking at, if you guys so choose, to set a special council meeting sometime that week, perhaps, to award the project, just to get a jump on construction. If the contractor can so fit into it as soon as he can.
So when the bid packages come in, you and Mr. Bodie would be opening those bids and critiquing them and making a suggestion to us?
That's correct.
So
yeah, it gives us a little time to tabulate the bids, make sure there's no errors in the bids, and tabulate them up and make recommendations. So as soon as we would want to do it is the next following day. Could be any time after that, I guess.
Okay. So when we get into future agenda items, or so, let's discuss that merit of having that. The bid would be tabulated, finalized recommendation to the council, and it might help a contractor coming out to shoot earlier if we did that as a special council meeting. Okay, good point. So no action that needs this.
No action needed at this point.
Okay, great. Justin, just in the event that you're not aware, I see that we have Glenn in the building this evening. So Glenn, if you happen to have anything from Stickney that you care to share tonight, you're certainly entitled to come to the lectern and share.
We have no updates.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I just happened to see you in the building tonight, and I give you that opportunity. Thank you very much. Okay, Public Works, it was circulated to us. Thank you, Gene. The report was written for us. Is there any questions, comments? I don't believe there was any council action that was needed.
No, sir.
Okay. Of the council members, anything that we have of Gene giving accolades?
Good questions, bad questions?
I just have a comment, question, statement, whatever you want to call it. Culvert on Agate Beach they found. So sometime down the road we should talk about that.
Yes. Okay. You're right.
And it's, okay, that's no action needed tonight. No. Yeah, good point. I believe there was one also, if I could, and I believe you did it right, that there was a concern about the Class 5 on Pleasant Lake Road. Is it Pleasant Lake and back?
Pleasant Road. Yeah,
and
Pleasant Road, yes.
That's obviously in the foreseeable future going to be a major reconstruct. That road is no longer salvageable.
Correct.
And so this is a means of not throwing good money after bad or something like that, and it's a means of helping to do the process. Is that
correct? Yes, it's a means, Mr. Mayor, of just getting by us some time until either funds come available or council decides exactly what we want to do with the road. I have gotten good and bad comments about using the class 2. I think everybody has opinions. Some like it, some don't. Afraid it's going to get dusty, going to get rocks in their yard, so on.
You're the expert in public works, so we give it to you.
Yeah.
Take care of it. Treat them with the dignity and respect, but quite frankly, council is going to be making a tough decision in the foreseeable future as to what we need to do with that road and water and the whole 9 yards. So stay tuned for another exciting episode. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gene.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Council action. Appropriations, allocations, transfers.
Mr. Mayor, I have none unless item 11C, Mr. Herberg is going to make some request for council action to spend money.
Okay, and that would be D as in dog and coming up here shortly. So nothing at this stage of the game. We can roll back to that if we do. Resolutions 2019-21, approval of realtor services. We have, as we stated earlier, critique both. There were 2 realtor services companies and entities that advanced their information to us. One was at the workshop and gave additional ancillary information to help us with the process.
What's the wishes of the council? What's our next move? The directive was for us to have Mr. Bodie go out and solicit RFP, which he did, and we have fulfilled that obligation. We've had some feedback.
Were we going to allow the other entity, if they are here, to approach?
Sure. Okay. The other entity that's here, we're not discussing commissions, but I believe that we're talking about Carol, if you care to advance and share with us, to the council, additional information about the company. Your name was one of those that was on there, so please.
Yeah, I.
Name and address, and then they.
Carol Dittman, 10059, County Road 47, St. Cloud.
Thank you, Carol.
I don't know that there's an awful lot I can add to that. You're all familiar with the Green team. Rhonda Green has been in real estate for close to 40 years. She's got a team of 9 that we work with. We do really quite a bit of advertising, much more than many of the other companies do. Looking at, you're trying to do marketing, so yes, the billboards, the signs that would go up on the property, as well as having so-called hosting open houses and what have you right at the land and trying to explain the lots, working with the developer. If, you know, depending on what the city wants to do, if we're going to survey out lots right away to begin with, working closely with the city. And both, there would actually be 3 of us that would be working real closely with the city on that. So, and that would be Rhonda Green, Tara Barrow, Byro, and myself.
Okay. Questions of any of the council members as it relates to the Diamond Realty proposal or follow-ups? As I stated earlier, the other group that was here, we as a group will give Mr. Bodie a directive, so he will be contacting, and assuming, or if we are going forward, and that's the tough decision that we're going to be making here shortly, there would be a letter of engagement that would be created, and then standards. And one of the things that I shared, and I think it's wise that we're at this stage of the game, and that is just because the original developer had cookie cutter anticipated throughout the whole complex or through the whole area. We have not really had a strategic planning, but we hear a lot about affordable housing, and so would there be mansions that would be built up in, obviously, in the areas where the trees are, and then on some of the more open grounds that have more density and an open space. And
generally with the development, that's what happens.
And so from a realtor's perspective, we want to make sure that the realtor group that we are going to work with need to hear a signal from us what we envision should be the logical thing that's out there.
Right, and evidently there wasn't enough information to hand out because yes, I did try to get some additional information from Mr. Bodie, but you know, at this point, there were no set plans. Okay, and it just took a little while to figure that out. But Medina Realty has been around forever in this area, or throughout the entire country. And between us, I added up one time, and between the 9 of us, we've really got close to 100 years experience. So everybody is well versed.
Okay.
So.
Comments, questions? Okay, thanks for your additional information.
I have a question, Marty. This contract, how long does it go?
Negotiable.
Oh, okay, it's all, okay.
Well, and I know the commissions are tried to keep quiet, I guess, and at this point, I don't know how much either one of them is going to charge. So for me to sit here and say, who we want to enter into a contract with, I'd like to know how much it's going to cost us, roughly. I mean, if we sign up with either realtor and one, I'm just throwing a number out here, is going to sell it, it's going to cost us $100,000, and the other one's going to cost us $250,000. Well, that's a big decision in my mind.
Yeah. Well, just as for a public purpose, as we know, but last month there was a groundswell and there was a movement that we asked Mr. Bodie to proceed, and that's what he did. And there was limited amount, the scope of work in the RFP was by design probably to see how much activity that we have, and we have two great entities that came forward. So the tough decision, you know, in my mind at least, and I'm not trying to sway the thought process, but that the city sign has been up there for a long period of time, realizing that the last end of that housing debacle was probably just finalizing, but it's robust, it's time to do it, and it's time to do it now. And I think rather than for us as a council, I sense that we're not ready, but maybe a task force in planning and zoning would give somebody from their group, and that we don't need to go through a full council.
Yeah, I'm not too hip on more task force and more committees. I'd like to see this thing get rocking and rolling.
To answer Mr. Herbert's question, once you choose a realtor, I'll work out the contract, I'll bring you those details. If they're out of line with each other, you will know it.
Yeah, and I get,
So I guess where I'm going with this, if you negotiate something out which you think is good, the council still can turn that down if we don't feel it's suitable or whatever. Okay, because I just don't want to sign a blank deal here. That's the only thing
I think what we were doing here is fleshing out of the two entities that did, it could have been 10. If we'd have had 10, we'd have had to go through a process of getting it down to 2, so we have 2 finalists that are here. And at this point, do we need to make that decision right here and now, tonight, based on the information that we've had? If that be the case, we would do that, or if it's something that you want to have additional information. I think the council member that was here that was advancing it is not here. If we did stall a decision to the next, I'm assuming we're going to have a special council meeting. One of them is for opening up the bids, one of them is for reviewing. I think it warrants for us to have. We could debate this all night long, but if we have better things to do, would we put that onto the special meeting council also, so there would be 3 items?
No, I think what the city administrator just said works out perfectly fine.
Yeah.
We pick somebody tonight, we look at the contract down the road. If it doesn't make any sense, I would have to think that the realty business, they're close. I mean, I just have to think that. I could be wrong, but I'm really thinking.
I would have to agree with Bill with what he said, when it comes to the commission part of it. Please understand that, what the commission is going to be charged by either company is going to depend on, have somewhat to do with the amount of involvement. Because we're not just looking at signing papers and putting up signs. We're looking at working with the development, getting the plans right. There's really, Dwayne, you have an idea of what all goes into developing and working with the property. And yes, we've done that too. And which, by the way, I did not know that there was a workshop that we could have or should have attended. So so.
It was publicized, and it was the opportunity was on the agenda to have a ordinance review in the RFP Realtor Services, so it would have been right short after 5 p.m.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh, okay. Oh, so the workshop was earlier tonight?
Yes. Okay. And so to that end, and Bill brings up a good point, the reason that I feel a little bit hesitant, I think it's wise for us to move forward, and I agree with Bill in that regard. The challenge is that if we have one or the other entities that goes forward, we need to have our ducks in a row as a council to say, what do we want them to do? Sell the outlots that are there? There's no developed lots that are left that are available, so they're just open outlots.
Well, and Carol, you weren't here at the workshop, but I want to reiterate that I did a lot of reference checks this morning on the two entities. Very, very positive amongst you all. My preference, though, I'm leaning towards the RE/MAX just because of certain comments that were made through the references. So I'm going to make a motion that we go with RE/MAX.
Okay?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and there will be opportunity for discussion. So, a motion by Bill, seconded by Brian to advance the services of the RE/MAX group to engage in a letter of intent with the city administrator, and I believe that should do it. Is that the intent of that motion?
Yes.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Any nays? Seeing none? Any abstentions? None? Passed unanimous. Thank you very much. Ladies, thank you for your efforts, or to the two entities. Mr. Bodie will be contacting both of you. Thank you. Okay, now we are to the ordinance amendment we already have accomplished because we're not doing anything with that.
That's correct.
Okay, and then Lions. Ryan, you want to just...
Yes, I guess I want to bring it up.
Maybe a little bit of background because it was in the workshop that we're talking
in regards to the Lions Park storage shed over in Pleasant Lake for the people that weren't here at the workshop. The Lions Club is submitted a estimate on re-roofing and putting on new siding on that building. It was, I forget.
4,000 something.
Like $4,200 or something like that, $4,100. And there is a couple options for that too. The Lions Club would provide labor to do all the installing if the city would pick up the materials. If they wanted, they could leave the roof off. That would save, the roof and the softened fascia would save about $1,500. If the council doesn't want to do it right now, I understand our money crunch as far as for the road work that we've got to do this summer, so I know every dollar counts. But if that's the case, that we put this off, I would like to have this entered into the 2020 budget process so that we can do something down the road.
I think that's something you could.
That's why I wanted to bring it. That's why I wanted to bring it.
I think that's a very appropriate idea.
Okay, so that's the discussion or the
that's my spiel, because I'm just bringing it forward for the Lions, and I don't want to go to the wayside, because I know there's people out at Pleasant Lake that want this, to be utilized and revived, and if that's the case, then I would like us to either take care of something tonight or make sure we put it in the budget process coming up.
Okay.
Council members, Mayor, I believe there is money in the parks budget. I would have to see how much. I believe there's about $7,000 in maintenance. That's just off the top of my head. It's possible there's money there for that. That's up to you though.
I'm not the expert in this because I was there when we moved that building.
Yeah.
But is it worth saying?
The structure part of this is the shed. The integrity is there. And so if we fix it, it will last quite a while.
That's a good question. It really is. It really is right there on the verge of get rid of it and start from scratch, or,
I mean, we've been talking about the old city hall for
Yeah.
20 years.
yeah.
And if we do remove, there is the possibility of asbestos or something, we don't know at this stage of the game, so if we do encapsulate it, it would even make it more challenging after that. So as long as there's no motion made at this stage of the game, I'm inclined to at this point say, just because it's budgeted and that there is funding that's there, we can use that money in many other spots, you know, and I think at this stage of the game, I would be inclined to say, thank you, Lions, for the offer. Let us do some strategic planning, and instead of investing money in that building, let's look at the umbrella shed that is there. They're already putting in granite and then putting up a wall, possibly working on bathrooms in that. So it just seems like that would be a better route to go, but that's strategic planning. So I'm inclined to not go forward. Thank them though for the efforts. Brian, if you're close to the helm over there at the Lions. So if we could, that's my, Brian?
I think so too, go get in the budget next year. By then, we ever know what our money status is, and maybe the Lions, there's something else can be worked in, or looked at it from a different angle, it can be incorporated in another building or so forth. And then we still have to make them that it's gonna be there for next year though.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I agree
Yep,
with that.
okay. Then we won't need any action at this point?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, do we need to make that in a form of a motion, Marty, so that it gets added to our budget process, or we just know that's what we're gonna do?
Yeah, and we have control of our destiny on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Brian, council members. Mayor's council report should be fairly brief. RTCB, we did not have an RTCB meeting. Quarry Trails Construction Board, I forget about those acronyms. Highway 23 Coalition, Rockville is a member of that, and they have a legislative committee targeted for May 14th. I plan on participating if I'm back out of the cities in time. That's about all that we have in that situation. You've seen some funding that's being allocated for a mini half or 94 and 23, upgrading that very safety challenged area is brought up forward. And I'm not quite sure, I think it's by end of the year 2022 that funding needs to be finalized. And then the other thing is beyond Richmond 4-lane, the north portion is the first year, and then the second portion is there. So for Highway 23, the City of Rockville have incidental funding that goes for it, and it's a great one. We're probably really needing that when we have growth, and the Highway 23 Coalition will be helping us with deceleration lanes when we get development on the Harstead property. So that's the primary reason that we originally became part of the Highway 23 Coalition. Sturs County Municipal League meeting coming up May 21st, hosted by St. Augusta. Don, are you going to be able to make it, do you suppose?
It's on my calendar.
It's on your calendar? Very good. And it happens to be the same night. This one I might be able to make because that hours is ahead. But Don will be representing us there. Okay. One last thing quickly, and we're not going to go into a whole lot, and this is geared for the public. I still hadn't gotten a call this past month about the review of that open meeting law, and we as a council, along with Mr. Bodie, our administrator, and our legal counsel, had the League of Minnesotas come in, give us training on the open meeting law and also on conflict of interest. It was a great dialogue. Pam Whitmore from the League orchestrated that. And I'd gladly have the council members share your thoughts on it if there is. So I apologize to the public right after it happened. I looked in the eye again that evening and I said, I promise it's not going to happen again. We're not going to allow that ever to happen again, possibly. And so the last question I have, what else can we do to make it right?
We have done this.
Yeah.
It's closed.
Yeah, I know.
You need to let this rest.
No, Mr. Bill, please.
This is not even on the agenda.
It is not, but it's under the mayor's report, and that gives me that privilege. And so at that point, what else can we do? So I'm just asking the public, please, it's over, it's done with. If If you need to have anything else, there's a formal process, and that's to go and contact the city administrator. But I'm getting tired of getting beat up over that issue. So it's over and done with. Thank you. Now, that's all I have at this stage of the game as it relates to the mayor's report. Any other council members want to add?
If we're on future agenda items now, is that where we are?
No, we're on other.
Okay.
Could I just, I want to just interject a couple things. This was some discussions with Marty, and to try to piggyback off of what Jerry Tipple talked about as far as to try to do some revenue funding for our road situations. Dwayne, I don't know if you remember, Donnie, you certainly do, back in the day when I was the mayor, when we were part of the, say called APO.
Yeah.
And that, I'm trying to set something up to get a gist from our APU of how they can help us or what the benefits would be. We are in their jurisdiction as far as our federal funding. So I want to get something set up with that, and whether we want that as a council or if I can get something with them, and maybe Marty, if he wants to stomach sitting through it with me, and I can present something back to the council and see if there's any benefits in that regard to help us out in those funding issues. The other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit is Marty, we talked about, you brought up, Bill, about that culvert being found on Agate Beach Road. I did go out and look at that situation. I knew there was one there somewhere. When it was underwater, it was virtually impossible to find where it was, but landowners did find it, and it's a 6-inch PVC pipe that's under the road. So it's not anything that's real substantial as far as longevity. And so I had some thoughts to Marty, and I haven't got them into an email, so he can convey them to Justin, the city engineer, and maybe if we're going to look at doing something to fix that, I've got some ideas. The last thing that I just wanted to reiterate is our road situation. So as being the person now grading our gravel roads and then looking at what has happened to our tar roads, it's just reiterated what I have been trying to put across as far as the condition of our paved roads. Our gravel roads and our paved roads sustained the same winter. And our gravel roads didn't bust up like our tar roads did. And the conclusion of that being is when the frost has gone out, our gravel roads have moved just like our tar roads have done. But the tar wasn't capable of flexing like it's supposed to without busting up. And that's what's blown out our road, because our tar roads they're beyond their life expectancy. So it's coming back to bite us big time. So we're on the right path to getting those fixed, and I just wanted to share that so that the council is fully aware. That's all I've got.
And that triggers a thought process, and that is the Pleasant Lake
exactly
is beyond repair, and it's not the tar and top, it's the base that's underneath it, and that gives, and once that water gets through, the moisture gets down through the cracks and stuff like that. So that one's beyond salvage. The whole thought process of our roads, if we need to go and get funding through bonding, then we would have the assessment roll. That is a 420, help me out, 429, that's the what trigger. So we as a group have to agree upon what is it that we're going to do for funding purposes, because our roads are in dire need.
I think this is an agenda item for a future meeting.
Okay.
I mean, we've debated this 50 times. Let's put it on the agenda for a future meeting.
Okay, I agree with you, and that should be strategic planning. So, okay, anything else, Brian? As others? Okay, future agenda items, Bill.
Yes, I have one that I would like to add, would be a goal-setting session for our budget. And if we can have an outside person from the league or someplace, Marty, to, this came out of that session I viewed them with them the other day. If we could have an outside person do this, it would be great. If not, we'll do it ourselves.
And would that be after the audit is in from this year, so that we don't?
Typically, we do the first.
We can do it whenever we want.
In August is our first meeting.
But we have to have a plan for our budget. This coming in December, and all of a sudden saying, we don't need this, well, why is it there? We need to have a plan.
But if I don't, you mind me cutting you off, we start in August.
Yeah.
It's only in December when we go to fisticuffs.
Yeah.
But I viewed that, and it was it's not a good plan.
Yeah. September is historically when first, we need to have it to the county by September 15th, the first one, right?
Our first meeting is typically in August, if I can get the paperwork done. I mean, we close out half the year, the audit gets done. The budget reports go to the department directors in July, they get them back to me, we get it implemented into August, and we have our first meeting August, September.
Yeah, and so it needs to be at these, by the end of September, we need to have the preliminary to the county. That's the directive. So, okay, thank you. That's a great point. We'll make sure that we have a third-party entity that helps us with that process. Any other items for future agenda items?
Special council meeting.
Special council meeting, yes. So it would be after the 20th of May, and there will be...
Can I make a suggestion? If we're gonna do a special council meeting, which that's what it's gonna be, can we please have it in the evening, not during the day?
You're bringing staff in from out of town at night.
I understand that, but it's just virtually gonna be impossible for the next month and a half for me to get there in the day.
That's your decision.
So, that's the only thing that I'm asking.
Okay, so if we decided to select a day or two, and that doesn't need to be tonight, but it would be nice if we did, and I think we need to get someone to get onto those roads, they're in dire need, and if we can gain 2-3 weeks by having a meeting shortly after the 20th, and Brian, the tabulations won't lie or something like that, so I think the four of us would probably make that decision if you travel. You know,
I'd still like to be part of it, and I am part of the council, so I'm just asking that.
I agree with you 100%. Well, what's the wishes?
Well, I think their administrator can get some dates and times and do a little meeting.
We can start with the 21st on a Tuesday. What time, Brian? 5?
I mean, 5's pushing it, but I can certainly try to
We
make
can
5.
go, what's not pushing it?
No earlier than 5. 5 is like pushing the limit, but I can...
6?
6 would be...
All right.
5:30?
Members, on the 21st on Tuesday, 6 p.m. work for you?
I'm going to be a South River Watershed District, and
Okay, let's go to Wednesday, 6.
I'm available.
Works for me.
That's fine with me.
Bill, 27th?
I shut everything down.
Okay, I'll send out an email and I'll get back.
Send out an email to do it, and if there's a conflict, and then we get the tipple, Jerry in there. So we're targeting for May 22nd at
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Very good. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Bill, seconded by Don. All those in favor of that motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Contrary, same sign. Passed unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you.